What are some of the first things that come to mind when you're thinking about defence and going into a new season? You might be in the pre-season. What are some of the key aspects that are you thinking about and ensuring to make sure your team is strong in that regard?
I guess first and foremostly, you want to identify what sort of defence you want to use. Obviously, there's a lot of now with obviously the game changing and all different sports use different styles of defence. And obviously footy only in the last, it's been 10 or so years has gone to your pressing, zoning, defending space type of defence. Previous to that, it was the old school one-on-one, you versus me, get your job done, and that was it. But I think now that, as coaching has improved and defending and offense has all improved, people have come up with different strategies in different ways. Like I remember when I was at Port Adelaide under Mark Williams and the late Phil Walsh, we started the old fold-back system. And, that was, defending space, defending a 15, 20-metre sort of perimeter and zone. And then if they got one on, you just kept folding back. And then I reckon around the 2010 when Collingwood won their premiership, they went to that really full-on aggressive pressing style of defence, and it sort of just mixed and changed. So as a coach, I guess you need to identify, what you want. All coaches are different. I coached with Josh Carr here at North Adelaide, and he was our premiership coach, and he was a little bit more one-on-one, just get your job done, win, but also teaching a different aspect of defending to our backmen, where I've got a bit of mixture of it, because I think the ability to defend one-to-one is still very important, but the ability to defend space and come off irrelevant guys is really important as well. So teaching that to I've got 60 guys here. It's a little bit different when you've only got 40 at an AFL club, but I've got 60 guys I've got to teach in my league and reserve squads, but then we try to educate and teach our under 18s kids as well. So trying to identify what style you are as a coach is obviously important, and then just trying to implement that over the pre-season.
And if you were giving advice to sort of local and community coaches, obviously sort of anything below sort of state level, what sort of key things is there much difference, obviously with the level you're at, and obviously AFL, there's a lot more time in that to put in systems.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of things that you would be advising a local coach in regards to setting up defence?
For the local guys, you can obviously still coach it. It sort of depends on the coach. Like you only get them for 2 nights a week. I think we're fortunate enough that I got them for 3 over the pre-season. So we put a little bit of time, but for the local guys, I'll use the example. So Jay Sheedy and Jared Wright, who have both come from amateur league football clubs over here and now coaching league clubs in the SANFL and doing a great job. They've come with zoning type defenses from amateur football clubs. So there's the opportunity to do it. It's just how you train it and coach it, and how your philosophy and your system sets up from a amateur club into the SANFL or into an AFL. It doesn't really change. It's just how you want to coach it. And if you coach it to the nth degree, then you'll get the best out of it. If you do dribs and drabs of it, you'll probably get a inferior product. So it sort of depends, how much time and effort you want to put into it. But obviously, we all know that if you can defend well and limit opposition from scoring, and then on the flip side, once you defend really well, you can attack really hard, then it's a great weapon for any coach to have in his arsenal.
In AFL, you hear in the media a lot now that a lot of coaches are thinking about defence first with their coaching. Is that the way you go at your coaching? And if it is, why is that? And if not, why do you come from that point of view?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I did a footy course years ago with the great Dave Whedon, and he first thing he asked me, he goes, "What sort of coach are you?" And you can only be offensive defense. Like, what are you? It's like, well, can you? Like, why can't you just have the balance right? Like, why can't you train your guys to limit scores, but then also kick scores as well? So he goes, "Oh no, you got to be one or the other." Well, I'm like, no, but I don't want to be. Like, you need to be able to score, you need to be able to defend. So I'm going to practice both. And if I had to pick one, I've worked under some great coaches, and one of the greatest mentors that I have is Nathan Bassett, who's at Port Adelaide, looking after their forward group now, and his ability to teach guys, how to defend on ball and off ball is just the best I've ever seen. and he's taught me things that that I probably learned in 2 years working with him that I hadn't learned in my whole football career, and the ability to come off guys at the right time, to layer off bloke at stoppage, to give you good defensive coverage. It's interesting, but at the end of the day, I think we all know that if you're going to win premierships, that you need to score as well. So we make sure here at North Adelaide that we really train both aspects pretty hard when we do our stuff in the off season and in season training. But if I had to call myself one thing, it's tough. I like to think that I got the balance pretty right between offense and defense. Like, I'm not either way. I like to kick big scores. I like to kick goals, but I like to limit guys from scoring, because we all know that if you're very good defensively, it's going to help you. But the flip side, if you're very, very strong defensively, then there's obviously some sort of element to the game offensively that's going to hurt you. So I make sure as a coach that I really try to get that balance right, where sometimes I get it wrong, where sometimes you go, okay, boys, we need to do this a little bit better than this, and you take a little bit, but then they might cost you the game. So that's all about coaching, about learning who you are as a coach. And as a coach, I'd like to think that I've got the balance right in offense and defense. I'm not either way, and I don't think you can be.
You mentioned Nathan Bassett and Dave Whedon. Is there any coaches out there in the SANFL or in the AFL that you sort of follow and sort of use as a mentor from afar, or even as a mentor with contact to them? Obviously Matthew Nix now is the senior coach at the Crows. We're really good friends. He worked at obviously Port Adelaide with me for a long time, so I lean on his shoulders a little bit in just football stuff. I'm very good mates with Buddha Hocking. He's been one of my development coaches since 2009, and we struck up a friendship since then. And he's a great man. Nathan Bassett, obviously, I still speak to my old premiership coach, and Choco Williams, who's a great mentor. But guys from afar that I really admire, like obviously Alistair Clarkson, for what he's done in our game. I really admire him. Obviously, I worked with Clarko for a year at Port Adelaide in 2004 when he was there, and I just thought this guy is going to be something special. I remember being a 18-year-old kid coming in, full of energy and cocky, and wanted to play round one, and the way he coached, and the way he spoke, and just what he's done at Hawthorn. Like, I just respect that club so much, with the ability to defend but score, but then just the way they manage their group and their football club. I know they haven't had a great year this year. I'm talking probably their premiership era, where they were just so well respected, but at the same time they were ruthless with what they did with Hodgie and all those guys. But they're still Hawthorn people, and to me, I'm a big American sports fan. Obviously, you've got the Kobe Bryant, Guernsey hanging in the background, and I love my American sports. And, they remind me of where the New England Patriots are at with their ability to, be so direct with their guys, but then so forthcoming where, they're very respectful to where their older players and senior players are. And I just really admire that about, Hawthorn and Clarko, and that's something that I'm trying to bring here to the Roosters. But then also I really like the honesty and the honesty, the work rate, and the way Nathan Buckley's changed his style over the last few years. You always heard that Nathan was very full on and with his players and about standards and all that sort of stuff. And once you sort of let go a little bit, and which I think he has, and the way he talks in the media, I just think he's an absolute professional. He's just changed the way he coaches, and that's something that I really admire as well. So, yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah. I want to just touch back. In your playing days, you played on a number of really tough, key, dangerous small forwards. What are some tips you could give some people playing in defence, and some real sort of things they could action maybe next season in the football in terms of playing that one-on-one with a tough small forward as a defender?
Yeah, so I get this one asked a fair bit, because I obviously played on Eddie Betts and Cyril Rioli and all these guys, and they're just fantastic footy players. And I was a bit flat when Cyril retired, because I wanted to keep watching him play, because he's just superb. And Stephen Milne, I really liked playing on those guys, and I think that was just me as a person. Like, I'm obviously pretty competitive. I've got three three brothers where we used to bash each other all the time during the weekdays and on the weekend. And I guess for me, when the position that I played and the guys that I play on, I never rated myself as I felt like I had some talent and I could play footy and I read the game pretty well and I could understand, but I was never a great kick, and I worked my backside off in that space with Choco and Dean Bailey, obviously, the great man, and I really worked in that space. But what I knew is I had to bring my strengths to the footy game. And that was just being competitive, tough, putting my head over the ball, and just doing all the general team things and leadership. And I was pretty vocal on the ground, so I used to set up and try to get guys up on the ground as quick as they possible. But to play on those types of guys, I think the number one thing is obviously never ever want to let them get goal side. I think that was the number one thing. If they're getting their kicks and marks up on the wing or up the ground, I was always like, you can sort of give them that little bit of leeway. But I never wanted them to try and get out the back of me, because even though I felt like I had some pretty good leg speed, I always felt those guys were generally quicker than me. So I knew if they were getting out the back of me, I'd be dusting, they'd be getting easy goals. So I always try to keep my oppo in front. And if they did try to turn, I was always really physical with them, which I felt was a real strength of my game.
I want to move on to some of your overall key principles for better and more consistent footy. What would they be?
As a coach or as a player?
As a coach.
As a coach. As a coach, I think consistency is really important. We haven't changed from round one to now a whole lot in our training itinerary or training program. And that's including drills. We obviously tinker a few kicking drills and stuff here just to change up the warm-up kick or whatever it is. But I'd like to be pretty consistent with what we do on our main session. If it's a offensive or defensive drill, generally I'll probably change it up once or twice throughout that sort of. We've only had a 14-week season this year, but I'll probably change it up a few times just to work on an area where we may have lapsed in the last week or two. But I like consistency as much as anybody, and I think for the players, they like to know what we're doing so we can go from drill to drill to drill and keep that intensity around training, which I think is pretty important. But I reckon that's probably the number one thing that for a coach, if you can be consistent with your messaging and what we're doing for training and why we're doing the drills, I think that's really important. And that's one thing that here at North Adelaide, I try to do is, okay, boys, hey, we're doing this drill because on the weekend, this is what happened to us. So we're going to practice this. And, if you can flow that into the drills as much as you're doing, then that obviously helps the guys improve and get better.
You touched on a couple of things, but what are some other coaching mistakes you see out on the footy field and during training?
Coaching mistakes, probably going away from what you think your philosophy and game plan can be. I've experimented a little bit this year. I like to think that we play a running style of game. We've got guys who can run and carry and use the ball really well. We've got big, tough inside mids. So I think sometimes as a coach, you can always search and get carried away with, what you see other teams do. And then, this team did this, so let's do that this weekend against them. And, I probably saw a few games this year where, you pick one or two things that the opposition did that beat that team the week before and you try to implement it. And you do that, but then you go away from what has got you to the position that you're in, and that's your game style and game plan. So that's probably the biggest thing I've learned this year is stick to what you know, stick to what's got you in the position where you are, and don't get seduced by what you see other teams do.
And on the training track, is there any sort of myths or mistakes or things you see as waste of time that particularly community and local coaches could stay away from?
Yeah, 100%. With our playing group, and we've got a head of development here, Darren Reeves, who does a part-time job for us, and he does an amazing job with our guys. And we obviously do pre-training and pre-craft before we do our main session. And my pet hate is blokes standing 20 metres apart kicking the ball to each other, because what benefit does that get for you? Apart from having a yarn to the bloke next to you and practicing your 20-metre straight on kick, but how often does that happen in a game? Very, very rarely. Usually you're kicking the ball laterally, sideways, or on the move, or backwards. So why don't you go practice that kick instead of just kicking a 15, 20-metre kick straight in front? So that's one of my pet hates, and, that's one thing that, if I see our guys do, I try to pull them up on it straight away.
Yeah, perfect. It's actually interesting. Change of sports a little bit, but I did a bit of running back in the day, and I remember I went out on this run out the Dandenongs in Victoria here. People know the area in terms of doing a few miles, but long story short, Craig Mottram, obviously the great distance runner, he used to always do this loop, and they've done this loop for 50 years. And he, after a couple of runs around it, he basically changed the route. Because there's this big hill, steep hill, that he said you would never come across this type of hill in a cross-country race or a road race or let alone obviously a track race. Yeah. So he changed it to a more of a training track that replicates what a training run or a race would look like. And yeah, that just reminds me of that. So
it's very true. Like, I tell our guys, well, if you're going to come out here and kick the ball, go work on your set shots, or go grab a pole, sit on the boundary line, and put the pole on a 45-degree angle and try to hit the pole. Or we've got special drills that we've teaching our guys to, grab 3 or 4 blokes and just go do our ball movement drill, because you can do that. So we make sure that, we've got such a limited time with our guys. We only get them for 2 hours on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and then obviously game day. And in pre-season it's a little bit longer. So, that little 15, 20, 25 minutes you get before training, if you get there early to work on your craft or work on something that's going to make you better, is really important. It might be a defender, it might be, dropping off, hitting the bag and then going at the ball, or it might be, inside mids working on, a ground ball hitting into bag and then dishing it off to somebody. So make sure you go work on something that's going to make you better, because, that 20-metre kick there, that's not a great one.
With working with assistant coaches, a part of your coaching staff, what are some of the things you like to implement to maximise them and maximise their use within your team?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate here at North Adelaide. Obviously, Kari left last year, and I got to step into our senior role here. And Trent Mills, who's our midfield coach, sort of continued on, which is really good. And I obviously give Trent the license to, I sort of tell him, hey, mate, I think, this is what their Oppo Ruckman does. This is how they set up. This is where I think we should go. You go do it. I think it's really important to obviously give the information to the assistant coaches. You got to remember, like, my guys are part-time. They've got full-time jobs anywhere else. So, they're coming to they're coming to work, to my work, because they just love footy and love being involved in the footy club. So for me, I like to sort of give the guys a bit of the information and then let them go implement it. Obviously, I've got an eye on everything, and I want to make sure that everything's getting executed pretty well. But I think the delegation side of being a coach is really good, to have trust in your assistant coaches to go, okay, hey, Millsy, this is what I want. Go do this. Or Reeves, this is what I want the forwards doing. Go do this. And I still look after our backline group, and I've got a lot of trust in a lot of my senior guys down there to, hey, boys, this is what I want you to do in craft. Go do this. This is the way we're going to move the ball this week. And then they can go do it and I can watch. So I can still walk around and have a look what's going on at training, which is good for me. And I think trust with your assistant coaches is the number one thing. And then, they're good enough and to understand what we want to do. And you just got to let them go and execute. And I've got great trust in my guys, and I understand that they understand what I want from them, and they go do it, which makes my job a lot easier.
On Saturday, or game day football, let's assume you got a 2:00 game. What does the sort of first 2 hours of your Saturday look like? It might even go back to your playing days as well. Was there a set routine or anything you had to do to set your day up for a good game?
Yeah, absolutely. As a player, I was definitely routine driven. I always used to wear the same pair of red Speedos that I bought when I first moved over to Adelaide, and they're in the bin now, so I haven't played for a while. But yeah, like same breakfast, all the same just routine, same music every game, and that was just my thing. I used to get the same strapping, same person, shoulder strapping, thumb, and it was just when you look at it back at it now, you just go, really? Well, why did? But that's just creature of habits. When you're in that system, that's just what you wanted to do, and that's what made you feel comfortable, and that's what I guess made me feel comfortable to get the best out of myself for that game. But now, obviously, life's a little bit different. I've got a young family, and at the moment we're playing finals on a Sunday, so We wake up, we go to swimming lessons. I take my little daughter in for her swimming class, and then watch my two boys learn how to swim, which can be like pulling teeth, but it's good to get out there and watch them, and then I get ready for footy. And at the moment our reserves are still playing as well, so I get to go watch them, and I think it's really important. And one thing I love about SANFL, and I know you guys don't have it over in your VFL anymore, but I love going to watch our reserves play, so then I go, okay, hey, this guy's played good this week, maybe he should be up for selection. And it's really important to see the development of some of our kids coming from our under-18s into our reserves. And, we've done a great job developing those guys to get ready for league football. So I really enjoy going to watch our reserves play. I get there pretty early. And then obviously after half-time when the reserves are done, I really hone into what our league guys are going to do in the next few hours. So definitely as a player, was a creature of habit, had a routine, but now obviously not being a player but being in the coach, I've still got things that I like to do, which are a little bit easier with the family stuff now. But I try to keep things pretty fun and pretty enjoyable for the group, because game day, as we all know, we've all played footy at some sort of level, can be pretty stressful at times. So it's just, you got to get around to everybody. You got to talk. You got to communicate. You got to understand guys and talk to them about what their role is on that day. And I think as a coach, it's really good to get around to every player and say, hey, today your role is A, B, and C. Just go ahead and execute that, and you'll have a good day. So I think that's routine for a player, but then also a coach with what you're going to do on game day is pretty important.
During a game, and there's a couple of scenarios. It's half time, and in one scenario you're up by 6 or 7 goals, and the other scenario you're down by 6 or 7 goals.
Yeah.
How does your response and your communication with your team change, or does it change? And is there any advice you might have for some local coaches and junior coaches and about how to go about those couple of different scenarios?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's interesting because there's lots of variables that can obviously happen in the game. If you're 5 or 6 goals up, things obviously going pretty well. You're going to be pretty excited. If you go into halftime talking to the guys about, what you think you can improve, but there's probably not too much you need to change. You need to just keep executing what you're doing, because it's got you in a good position up till halftime. So don't let the reins loose too much, but just keep driving them on. This is what we've done to be 5 or 6 goals up. Let's continue on with that. And on the flip side, when you're 5 or 6 down, it's you got to. There's a lot of variables that obviously can happen when you're in that position as well. And there might have been a couple of fumbles in the goal square that have led to easy goals, or your defensive shape might not be great, or you're losing it from stoppage. So if you can put a plan together on how you're going to get yourself back into the game, let's say if you're losing stoppage, okay, well what can we do to get ourselves back up into the game? Well, we might actually send up an extra guy into stoppage to give ourselves a +1, knowing that the opposition team might have an extra in defence, but at least we're going to get back into the game by winning stoppage and driving the ball forward into our forward 50. So there's different methods that you can use to try to reverse the mindset of the guys. And then just obviously being really positive. There's sometimes where you might be 5 or 6 down and you want to come in and you want to bash the board and crash. Sometimes that has an effect, which can be good and can get the boys up. But I think it's really important to be calm and try to give positive and try to get the guys' minds back into the game and back onto task on how we can improve and how we can get better. I think that's really important. But I still see there is a value in, the raving and ranting coach at a certain time, if things aren't going really well. But then always, as a coach, I always try to finish something on a positive spin, because they can always hear the 5, 6, 7, 10 things that you're yelling at them that are negative. But if you can get that one little gold nugget in there, especially at the end, they generally remember that.
Yeah, I always, in that sort of, when you're down in half time, I always think of that Kevin Sheedy story. I think it was the 93 prelim against Adelaide, and where he mentioned if we'll get the first 3 goals, I think they were 7 goals down or something, and first 3 goals, and then we've got a quarter and a half to knock back 4 goals, and we've got 100,000 people barracking for us at the MCG at the time, and just to give that real positive spin, even though they're in absolute all sorts at half time, and of course the rest is history. Just back to training, is there any couple of your favourite drills that you like to implement, like in a couple of drills that maybe coaches can grab a hold of and apply to their teams?
Well, we try to do a lot of our drills that are relevant to our game plan. I don't generally have a drill that's my favourite. Like we've got a full ground kicking drill, which is just a cone based drill, which I'm neither for or against the old cone based drills. People say there's no value in them in our game, but for our guys, it's not about it's about our ball movement. And if there's one guy standing on a cone, he actually leads to a position, receives the ball, and rolls. So we try to keep the ball what we call in flow as much as we can. So that's probably our warm up drill, which gets all the guys going, gets their legs ticking over, and gets them into mood to train. But then we've got a few offensive and defensive drills where we obviously work on both sides of our game. We do a lot of contested stuff throughout the weeks and a few drills as well. So we like to get a good balance of some tough and hard training and get that body contested body work in, which I think on a week to week basis is still really important. But then also we like to get some flow in our offense and ball movement drills as well. So, but like I said, we try to keep things pretty cruisy around here in that space. I don't try to invent the wheel too much with bringing in new drills as often. But yeah, we try to keep our drills relevant to what our game style and game plan is.
We talked a little bit about defense earlier, and that was through the pre-season. But if you were getting a new job at a new club and you're just walking in the start of pre-season, what are some of the key foundation things you have to get right to take the first step on the right foot with this new club?
For me, it's footy stuff. Footy, even now, like when I was at Port Adelaide as a development coach, I was always big on relationships. And if anybody in the industry or anybody who knows me as a person I'm a relationships based person. I've got 60 guys here that I've got to care about and worry about, and from our number one player to our 60 guys, like I know what they're doing on field, off field. I always have an open door policy here at the Roosters where it could be anybody coming in to having a chat with me about anything. So, if I wanted to go back into the AFL or someone wanted to talk to me about a potential job, it'd be, yep. I think all footy people and footy coaches have got the same sort of ideas and philosophies, just how you execute them as a coach. And I think the AFL world is more about, I guess, the people that in the industry who want to either help you develop as a person and help you get a job. But for me, it's just the relationship stuff and getting to understand and know the people that you're going to work with. I think that's by far the most important aspect of footy these days. And I know, and being in this job now for 12 months, if I've got a better understanding of what my individual player and playing group are about, then I think that makes me a pretty strong and powerful coach because I know what makes them tick. And I think that's the number one thing in football now is just having a really strong, open and honest relationship with your players. And that's probably the biggest thing that I would talk about. And, if you went and talked to anybody at Port Adelaide, they'd probably say that's the same thing about me. And if you went and spoke to Josh Carr, and who's now at Fremantle, he'd probably say the same. Or anybody that I've worked with, that's probably who I am as a coach and a person.
Has there been a failure of sorts or a apparent failure that has sort of set you up for success later on?
Yeah, having an older brother who was always really good at sport. My brother Eric was, two-time national decathlon champion. He was always bigger and stronger, and I think that's just made me really competitive and really, really driven to be the best. And I reckon, any person who's a second brother would probably feel like that a little bit as well. I guess, my junior sporting days, I was always pretty successful as an athlete and played a bit of basketball here and there and obviously made the state rep teams with footy. And but I guess it comes back to, what you were like as a child. And, I had an older brother who used to beat me up and made me pretty competitive and always wanted to beat the older brother. So for me, there's never a moment where I felt like, this is my moment now to shine. And I've always been that sort of happy-go-lucky type fella who's always been really competitive and wanted to get the best out of himself. And I think I think the way our parents raised us was that way, to be really competitive, but then also be humble and be humble in victory. I think that's really, really vital to creating really good character. And yeah, I guess mum and dad were pretty full on in that space with us.
No, I can definitely relate to a bigger brother bashing you up a bit. Is there any books or maybe documentaries you might be able to recommend people to get a hold of or check out?
Yeah, so I'm probably a younger, like I know an older style coach would probably rip out, oh yeah, I've read this A book and this book and this book. I'm not a massive book reader in that space. I read more like soccer books on how you press and how you sit off, or basketball books on how they zone in basketball. So I like to read tactical books, and there's plenty of books out there. Like I've got a book here, the game of basketball, about the fundamentals of what zoning and pressing is. There's obviously heaps of NBA coaching playbooks that you can get your hands on. But I'm not huge in that space, where as I get older, I'll probably will. But right now, I've sort of got my own philosophy that I think that I've learned over the years. But like I said before, I'm a big American sports fan, and I love watching things. I love watching the ESPN documentaries. I love watching stuff on Bill Belichick. I just think he is an absolute guru. Phil Jackson, what he did at Chicago Bulls, obviously The Last Dance, all that sort of stuff just really gets me going. All the NFL documentaries on the different sporting teams in their league, the NBA stuff with Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson, those guys who have been in that industry now for 15, 20 years as senior coaches, they're obviously doing something right. And, you hear Paddy Mills talk about Greg Popovich and how he's such a personable and relationships type driven coach. He's obviously a nutcase, like most coaches are, but he's very personable. Like, I watched a documentary with Paddy Mills, and in San Antonio, with the day it was Australia Day, like they had an Australia Day theme training session at their gym. Had the palm trees and the flag and all that sort of going. Just little gold nuggets like that. You just go, yeah, that coach gets it.
Yeah.
And, with our some of our guys, we do things like that. Birthday stuff or whatever it is. We just make sure we make everybody feel like they're part of the North Adelaide Footy Club.
If I could give you a banner that you could put up on every coach's bedroom door that they might see day in, day out, what would it say?
Don't die wondering.
Perfect, mate. Well,
yeah, that's. I guess for a coach, like, you're always searching to be better. So, if you don't get to doing that thing, don't die wondering. Just try to get it done. Try to make yourself better. And I think that's probably the way I see things, especially now as a coach. Don't die wondering. Make sure you make the right decisions for the right time. And I think that's obviously pretty important.
Well, that suits our show perfectly. That's what we're trying to do, is improve everybody listening. So thank you very much, Surj, for jumping on the show. And we really appreciate your time.
Beautiful. No worries. Thanks for having me on.